Okay, so for this one, go ahead and read the stimulus and find the conclusion. And after you find the conclusion, I want you to predict what you think the flaw is before reading the answer choices. Okay, so we're saying at the request of Grove Park's residents, speed bumps were installed on all streets. All is a strong word just to pay attention to. All streets in their neighborhood. Okay, so because residents wanted them, I guess that would make sense. I was thinking, I've never heard of residents requesting speed bumps, but I guess if you have kids, your attitude changes and you're like, no, I want speed bumps. I don't have kids and I don't want speed bumps yet. However, although through traffic does cause noise and congestion in Grove Park, this remedy is blatantly unfair. What? Why is this remedy blatantly unfair? The neighborhood is not a private community and its streets were built with public funds, and thus all drivers have the right to use them whenever they please. So we threw out the idea that this last sentence was the main conclusion. But what do you think now?
I think this remedy is blatantly unfair.
Yes, it is going to be, and why? How can we test which one is which?
I know the therefore test, right?
That's too confusing for me. How
Okay.
I do it is, I'm very honest.
No, I got it.
I did the therefore test, and sometimes I would do it and I would be like, they both make sense to me.
Okay.
So all I ask myself is, which one is being used to support the other?
Okay.
So are we using this remedy as unfair to support the idea that all drivers have the right to use them whenever they please? Or are we using the idea that all drivers have the right to use them to support the idea that this remedy is unfair?
This way, this remedy is used to support all drivers have the right.
You think that this remedy is unfair supports the idea that all drivers have the right to use them whenever they please?
I mean, this arrow, the first arrow.
Sorry, I'm here. This say, and the other thing that you can do to do that is this might be the same thing as the therefore test. I call it the because test. Does it make more sense to say this remedy is blatantly unfair because all drivers have the right to use them whenever they please? Or does it make more sense to say all drivers have the right to use them whenever they please because this remedy is blatantly unfair?
First way you said it.
The first
one.
Yeah. So so the first one's going to be our conclusion, and this is going to be our subsidiary conclusion, because after because is a premise. So this is our premise / subsidiary conclusion that's being used to support this. Why is the remedy unfair? It's unfair because all these drivers are allowed to use it. All right, now that we have the conclusion, why does our support not add up? Or what is the gap between our support and the conclusion?
I predicted that, like, he's basically saying because of the speed bumps, no one's gonna drive in that area.
Okay, so one thing to really, I always say is always look at question from look at the questions through the eyes of the conclusion. So our conclusion is this remedy is blatantly unfair. We're saying it's unfair because it's not a private community. So not a private community. It's streets were built with public funds and all drivers have the right to use them. And because of these three things, we're trying to say that this is unfair.
Yeah, so I had a strawman flaw.
Okay, you don't even have to say the right flaw for me. Why do these three things not add up to it being unfair?
Well, because the argument, they're not saying that you can't use the streets. They're just adding the speed bumps. you can still
Right.
use them.
Do these things, are these things like, I'm gonna use the word sufficient because of a lack of a better word. Are these things sufficient for saying that something's unfair?
No.
And why does speed bumps equal unfairness? Like how does adding the speed bumps make it unfair for any of these reasons? I don't know what flaw that is, but that's what I'm looking for. All right, so go ahead and look at these answer choices and then let me know once you have an answer. Did you get, E? Yeah, is that, look how easy, when we take time and think about it, look how easy it is to come up with E. Because presumes without providing justification, and so that means assumes. Does our author assume that speed bumps do prevent drivers from using the roads on which the bumps are found? Yes. Is that a problem? Yes, because it's never said. So how do we know that this remedy is blatantly unfair? You're still allowed to use the roads. We just want you to go a little bit slower. Like, wear your mask, people. You're still allowed to go. Just wear a mask. Any questions on this one?
No.